Welcome to MadHooker's Boxing and Martial Arts YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to focus on the Peekaboo boxing style. And most importantly, springing to the side, using your footwork to get to the side of your opponent where you can hit him and they can't hit you. Now let's begin. First things first, what is springing to the side? Springing to the side is a diagonal side step to get to the side of your opponent. For instance, if I'm in my Peekaboo stance and my opponent's in front of me, I'm going to take this rear leg and step through at a diagonal, at an angle, to cut that angle against my opponent. So if I'm here, I'm just going to step through and spring to the side. Okay? So again, I'm going to spring to the side. Now, the spring to the side, especially the right-hand side, I can actually go close to my opponent or a little bit farther away from my opponent to create space for my longer punches. Usually when the punches are fully extended, you'll have a little more power than your really close punches, okay? So again, the spring to the side, I go at a diagonal, like 2 o'clock on the clock system. I'm gonna spring, and then from here, I can rotate, dropping this foot, pivoting on this foot, and then I can go right into my right cross, which is the number 2. Okay, so again, I'm gonna spring to the side and then rotate. That's the movement we're gonna focus on, and I'm gonna give you 10 different setups that you can try in sparring to cut that angle on your opponent to set up that right hand power shot. The best way to practice the spring to the side, and specifically what we're focused on in this video is going to the right hand side, is on the heavy bag. The heavy bag represents your opponent, and it really gives you the distance to be able to throw the correct punch, okay? So the first one, number 1, is gonna be, I'm just gonna practice springing to the side to 2 o'clock, making sure my knees are bent, and then rotating into that number 2, which is a straight right hand. So again, I'll do it a few times. I'm gonna spring, rotate. Again, spring and rotate. Now, based on how close I get to my opponent when I spring to the side will determine if I'm gonna throw a straight number 2 or a hook line number 2. Let me give you an example. If I spring farther out, here, I can use that long range, that straight right, boom, right into my opponent. But if I spring closer to my opponent, here, I can actually do the right hook, the number 2, or even the number 6 to the body, okay? So based on where you land and how close you are to your opponent determines the correct tool you're gonna use. So number 1 is just practicing spring to the side, throw the right hand. Normally you wanna try to do something to set that spring up, to disguise it, okay? You wanna do something with your opponent and then spring to the side. Now, a quick reminder, if your opponent is moving all over the place, has fast footwork, it's gonna be very hard to get to the side of your opponent to do it. This works well against opponents who shell up, or you've got them against the ropes, or they're just not moving backwards as much. Now let's move on to the next one. Number 2, springing to the side, I'm gonna use the jab or the number 7 to disguise or set up my spring 2. Okay, so I'm in front of my opponent, I step in with that hard jab, and then I spring out. I'm gonna create distance because I want that straight right. I'm gonna spring out and then throw the number 2. So again, I'm here, I'm gonna step in, step out, then throw that number 2. All right, so one more time, I'm here, I'm gonna right there. All right, one more time. Right there. And then after my last punch, I can move my head. Let's move on to the next one. Number 3, the setup for springing to the right-hand side, I'm gonna spring and get closer to my opponent to throw that 6 to the body, that right hook to the body. So I'm here, again, I'm gonna use the jab, the number 7, to set it up. So I'm in front of my opponent, I'm gonna step in hard with the jab, I'm gonna spring closer to my opponent where I'm almost touching him with my elbow, and then I'm gonna pivot on this foot and throw the 6 to the body, okay? Let me do it again. So I'm gonna boom, spring, throw it here. A lot of times when you get on the side of your opponent, I'm in tight, I'm actually touching them. That's fine. All right, because then I'm gonna rotate, create space, and throw the 6 to the body. So again, here, throw that number 6. One more time for the video. Okay, then you can move your head after your last punch. The fourth setup for the spring to the right hand side is actually my favorite way to do it. You're gonna throw a 7-2 or a jab cross, create space by springing to the side, cut the angle, and throw the number 2. So I'm in front of my opponent, I'm gonna step in hard with the jab, rotate on the cross, spring to the side, throw the 2, and then I can move my head. Okay, again, I'm in front of my opponent, boom, boom, spring 2, move my head. Yeah, I'm gonna stop the back for the sake of the camera. I'm in front of my opponent, move my head. Again. Number 5 is gonna be a little bit more tricky. I'm gonna throw the 7, which is the jab, and spring or step through with my right leg to the right hand side at the same time. So let me show you. So instead of stepping in and jabbing, then springing, I'm gonna diagonal step and jab at the same time like this. I get the jab in my opponent's face, and then from here I can rotate into that straight right hand. So again, I'm out here, I'm gonna diagonal step, spring to the side, throw the jab, and then rotate into that right hand. Let me do it a couple times. So I'm in front of my opponent. Again. The jab is used as a decoy or a distraction to your opponent so you can get to the side and fire that right hand. Number 6, I'm going to use the jab to rear uppercut, which is the 7-4, making sure I'm getting my head off line, and then I'm going to spring to the side and throw the number 2. So when I'm in front of my opponent, when I step in hard with the jab, I'm going to make sure I get my head off line to set up that rear uppercut. So I jab, get my head off line, I'm going to throw that rear uppercut, then spring, throw the 2. Again, I'm going to step in, spring, throw the 2. Again. Then I can move my head after my last punch. Move my head after my last punch. Number 7 is used when I'm closer to my opponent because ultimately I want to set up that rear uppercut to the chin. Okay, so I'm going to be in front of my opponent and I'm going to jab. Okay, I'm going to throw the jab and I'm going to do a switch step spring. So when I'll do the switch step is kind of like in Muay Thai where you do a front leg switch, but this time I'm going to step in, jab, and then I'm going to do that switch step, but then step to the side, spring to the side. So I'm here, I'm going to step in, jab, boom. So now I got that side angle. I'm almost in a southpaw position now, and then I can throw that 4 to the head. So I'm going to step in, jab, switch, get my head off line, throw the 4 to the head. So I'm going to step in, jab, switch, 4. Again. Jab, switch step, throw that 4. As you see, I'm at that side angle. My head's outside his shoulders. All right, and then I'm going right up the middle with the number 4. Number 8, I'm going to add some head movement. I'm going to add a weave motion to set up that spring 2. So when I'm in front of my opponent, I'm going to step in hard with the 7-2. Okay, so I'm here, 7-2, weave, and when I'm going to stay low in this crouch position, then I'm going to spring to the side and throw the 2. So again, let me walk through it. 7-2, weave, spring, 2. Again. Making sure you stay low on your weave and then springing to the side and then coming out of it. So again, I'm going to step in, 7-2, weave, spring, 2. Number 9, I'm going to add the peekaboo twist to create a different angle and use a different punching arm when I'm close to my opponent. So I'm going to use the 7-2 to set it up. I'm going to go 7-2, spring to the side, then I'm going to twist, and I'm going to throw the 5 to the body and the 1 to the head, and then I can move my head. So I'm going to go 7-2, spring, twist, 5-1, move my head. Again. Cutting that angle. Because if I just spring to the side, I can't throw the left hand. All right, to get proper leverage behind my punch, I have to rotate and pivot on that foot and throw the right hand. To be able to throw the left hand, I have to twist, create that angle, and then I can attack the body head. Let's move on to number 10. Okay, number 10, after my twist, instead of going body head, I'm gonna go right to the head with the number 1 and then throw the number 2. This is used if, let's say my opponent takes a step back, or when I spring to the side, I'm a little bit farther out. So I can't really throw a body hook. So I'm gonna be here in front of my opponent, I'm gonna step in, 7-2, spring to the side. Now when I twist, I'm gonna rotate into that 1 to the head, 2 to the head. Okay, again. 7-2, spring to the side, twist, 1, 2, and then I can move my head. 7-2, spring, twist, pump, pump. Again. Pump, pump. Pump, pump. Move my head after my last punch. That is it. That is 10 different ways you can set up the spring to the right hand side to throw your counter punches. You can practice this on a heavy bag against an opponent. If you have a buddy, a training partner, you can do these on the focus mitts, and then eventually you want to be able to put these into practice when you spar. Make sure you like and subscribe this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Have a good day.